I know it's not much, but it's the best I can do. My gift is my song, and this one's for you. And you can tell everybody this is your song. It may be quite simple, but now that it's done, I hope you don't mind, I hope you don't mind that I put down the words. How wonderful life is while you're in the world. Oh yeah, getting Jeremiah Wonders started on the right positive foot with a little bit of Elton John. Somebody wanted me to do my Elton John impression, so there you go. Got emailed that request. Told you guys to do that last week, and that was the first one I got, was to do Elton John. So there you go. Kicking off the episode, starting with some smooth Elton John to start the show. Man, I love me some Elton John. I debated between that and Can You Feel the Love Tonight. Love that song from The Lion King. Are you kidding me? One of the best soundtracks of all time, in my opinion. Hakuna Matata? What a wonderful phrase. Are you kidding me? Anyway, I want to start doing that. Taking your request to do some impressions. I'll try to incorporate them in the show sometime. So, yeah, let me know which ones you want me to try to do. I figured I'd just start off with one in the intro, and we'll work our way up from there, and then hopefully maybe they'll start calling in on the podcast. Who knows? I don't know. Hope you guys had a good week. I had a really cool week, had some really cool things happen to me that I want to get into here in a second. But I wanted to implore you guys to keep doing the kindness challenge, guys. And I'd like to read one that I received that was pretty cool. Really, really nice of this guy. And I don't know what he sounds like or what he looks like. So what I'm going to start doing whenever I read emails from you guys is I'm going to use my imagination. I'm going to wonder what you might sound like. And I'm just going to read the letter in a different voice or a different character. So here we go. Dear Jeremiah, I always try and put out good energy into the world, like you said. But I did something that made me feel like I really succeeded at your challenge. A friend of a really good friend of mine recently passed away. She had been sick for a long time, and one of her last wishes was to see the beach one last time. Unfortunately, she was too sick to make the 3-hour drive to the beach. I live right near the beach, so I went out and collected some sand, shells, and ocean water. I put my arts and crafts skills to good use and made a little diorama of a beach. I overnighted it with a bottle of ocean water and a card to my friend. She gave it to her friend on Thursday, and she passed on that Saturday. I'm told that it put a smile on her face, and being able to do that for a stranger in her final days is something that I will value for the rest of my life. Aside from that, I've been loving the podcast. Todd Glass is one of my favorite comics, and his old Comedy Central half hour from the early 2000s inspired me as a kid to get on stage, so it was really cool to hear him talk about that in his personal life. Lastly, I would love to hear your Elton John impression, and I love the hardcore Pat and Jeremiah character, so I'd be super psyched if the whole Kill Tony band became hardcore for an episode. Sincerely, Ben. P.S. I saw that dude that tried to fight you on mushrooms recently. He obviously is very successful and doing well in life. Thank you, Benjamin Creed, for writing in that letter to Jeremiah Wonders. I really appreciate that, man. And man, what a cool story that I'm very happy that I was able to share with this audience. And hey, man, did that Elton John impression for you. So hope you enjoyed it, my friend. Yes, I love hearing that kind of stuff. And I want to actually share with you somebody who did something really kind for me this week. That was pretty monumental to me, and really is going to affect the future of this podcast. So I want to share this really cool thing about this guy who hit me up for through Instagram for a possible sponsorship. I announced on the podcast last week that at Bronx Born Pizza was one of the new sponsors for this show. And I said that I would give details on how this sponsor is helping out the show and what they're doing, because it's something that's pretty unique. So I met with this guy named Thomas Schiffer that we met up at. He owns a couple different pizza places. We met up over at Gray Block Pizza a couple times, and basically we got to talking, and he likes what I'm doing, and basically is a good dude who believes in me, believes in this podcast. And he asked me, Jeremiah, why aren't you doing video for this podcast? And I said, well, honestly, it's a lot of extra work. It already takes me a long time to put the podcast out as it is. It's a very heavy editing process to get this thing out there. But outside of that, my laptop is too old. It's too slow. It can't handle video editing anymore. Like I've been a video editor for years, but I just can't handle HD footage anymore. It's too slow. And he's like, huh? So you need a laptop, huh? He's like, well, what else do you need? And I was like, well, I would need like lights and stuff as well, like if I were to shoot this show properly. And so we got to talking, and I'll try to not make this story too long or anything, but he's like, well, this is what I'm going to do. I don't want to just give you money for like a regular sponsorship. I want to do something more than that. And I want to help you out, and I want to get you the stuff that you need to get you to a place where you can start doing video for this podcast. You're a physical comedian. You're very visual with your humor, especially with the voices and characters. Everybody wants to see that. They love to see the video of that for your podcast. So Thomas Schiffer from Bronx Born Pizza, he hooked it up, guys, like in a huge way. The reason why this podcast, like this episode that you're listening to, I literally edited this podcast you're listening to on the new laptop that he bought for me in the show. And he bought some other equipment for me that I'm hoping that within the next 30 days I can launch like video with the guest. I'm working on that, getting all the equipment together and learning how to use some of the new hardware and different equipment. But he just basically just did this huge act of kindness, and it came out of nowhere, and it was kind of reality shock. Like I thought at first, honestly, like I didn't know what his intentions were for me. And whenever we were meeting and everything, and it turns out he's just a very nice, gracious guy that you don't run into in Los Angeles very much. And I was kind of looking at him like, why are you doing this? Like I had that look on my face. I'm sure like, is this a scam? Like what, like, am I in a hidden camera show? Whatever. Because he was offering to, get me things that I've been needing for years to like update and properly, so I can get to a place where I can edit in a quicker amount of time and all that. And he said, you know what? I was an apprentice at this pizza shop a while back whenever I was younger. And the guy saw that I had a talent for making pizza, and he took me under his wing. I was his apprentice, and he gave me a small sum of money, and he said, go open your own pizza shop, but make sure you're not anywhere near me. And he goes, I want to be that guy for you. It can't be somebody who you really know that well, or family. They don't really get it. It's got to be somebody who just has your best interest, that is basically wanting to help you out from that's on the outside to help you out. And he's like, I want to be that guy. I think you're, he said, I think you're a great comedian, and I think you deserve it. You work so hard. And it was just one of those things where it's huge, guys. Like I I can't say how shocked I am and how grateful I am to get new equipment and to be doing it with something that I love to do. And I can't wait until this show is on video and available on YouTube, and I'll be working at that. And I just want to thank Thomas Schiffer from the bottom of my heart. And I called my mom, and she was like crying because like whenever a stranger does something like that for you, like it's one of those moments where you're like, wow, there is still so much good in the world, and there's so much capability to do cool things for other people, no matter how big or small. Like even little things can change somebody's day or their life in the long run. So thanks again to Thomas Schiffer. Hit up at Bronxborn Pizza on Instagram. Please show them some love. And this show is happening right now because hooked it up with the laptop and equipment, and video will be coming soon, guys. So that's the huge announcement that I wanted to say. Video will be coming soon. I want to give a shout out to the other people who sponsor this show. Speedweed, my buddy Gino over Speedweed, marijuana delivery, sticky icky, green, blue, yum, all that stuff, that marijuana delivery service. Hit up at Joe's Pizza LA on Instagram, or go in to the West Hollywood location on Sunset. Talk to Joe, talk to Giuseppe, talk to Manuel. I'm learning all the guys' names and getting to know them, becoming friends with them. So they're all great staff there. Check that out. And of course, at Bronxborn Pizza, that is in Bend, Oregon. So if you live in that area, definitely support that company. And a new thing that I wanted to do also, guys, is there's music that I play at the beginning of the show. There's opportunity to play different music from different artists. So if you're a musician and you want your song in this intro of this podcast, email your boy Jeremiah Watkins at gmail.com. That's YOUR boy Jeremiah Watkins at gmail.com. And just give me permission to use it in the email and attach it as an MP3, and I'll use it in upcoming episodes, guys. I want to start using your guys' stuff as well and make this a fun collaborative podcast. What do you say? Huh? Can't wait. This intro is running long for sure, but I had to share that awesome story with you and that big announcement. Tait Fletcher, man, what a cool guy. Different kind of a guest. He's not a comedian. He's a stuntman. And I know that you've seen him in a lot of TV or movies, and you probably just don't know his name. But man, he is such a cool person, and he did me such a huge solid. We had a pretty huge setback whenever we recorded the first episode. There was like a power surge at the Comedy Store where we originally recorded. We lost the entire episode, and we had already sat down for like an hour and a half and recorded a great podcast. And I had to call him later in the day and be like, bro, got some bad news. And he couldn't have been nicer, couldn't have been cooler. We rescheduled it, and he did another recording. So this is that one that you're hearing is actually the second episode. So there's not a pizza party segment, and because we literally got the pizza and ate it the day before, and he ate all the cheese and sausage and didn't eat any of the bread. He knocked out like 5 slices of just the cheese and sausage. Pretty impressive. I'll get to that in a second. I want to plug a couple dates real quick, guys. April 5th through 7th in Phoenix. Going to be there with the whole Kill Tony band and doing stand-up sets with Tony Hinchcliffe and Brian Redband, and also doing some Reagan and Watkins music action. The 13th through the 15th of April in Ventura, me and my boy Patty Reagan are recording the debut Reagan and Watkins album. Cannot wait to share that with you guys. Joel Berg will be playing some drums on some of those tracks. Chroma Chris will be playing bass on some of those tracks, and some of the guys from the Goddamn Comedy Jam will be helping out with the instrumentation on that as well. So it's a fun group friend project. A lot of love is going into it, so it'll be great. April 19th through 21st, Moon Tower, baby, in Austin, Texas. Can't wait to bring stand-up on the spot there. We're going to be there with the Goddamn Comedy Jam as well. And we're going to be doing Big J's Crowdwork show, a lot of amazing shows, and I'll be doing my own personal stand-up. And The Wave is headlining a show at Broke LA Comedy Festival on Sunday, April 22nd. And then 27th through 28th, I'm with the Golden Pony at Wise Guys in Salt Lake City in Utah. Yeah, baby, the Golden Goose, Golden Pony together once again. See? Quick and painless. Got through those dates. Thank you guys so much. I'm sorry this intro is a little bit longer than usual. This whole episode's a little bit longer, but it's good. It's different. And also, I think that's about it. Keep up with those great reviews on iTunes and everything. And share it with a friend. And guys, I hope this kindness challenge thing is putting some good positive energy into your lives. I really like the stories that you're sending me, so keep emailing me those at yourboyjeremiahwatkins@gmail.com. And without further ado, please welcome to the show, Tait Fletcher. Rigid for her pleasure.
Ribbed. Yeah, that's ribbed. Yeah.
Rigid for her pleasure. So Tait is holding my electric lighter right now.
When you give a pause between Tait is holding my and the electric the space in between there just lets the minds wander.
And yes, it does. Tait is holding my...
It's an electrical lighter.
It's an electrical lighter, and it's meant to light candles. And the first thing he you hear that? Yeah,
you can hear it sizzle a little.
Oh, you definitely can.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good. All right. Good.
Yeah. So
what we have here is a little plastic handle with two steel stanchions that kind of come up, and then when you press the button, there's an electrical current that arcs between the two stanchions, which is about the size of one's thumbnail, maybe.
And yeah, it's basically the idea behind like a taser that like a cop has.
So when I walked in and I saw this thing, I was like, man, what the heck is this? How's it even work? And I pushed the prongs out, and then he says, press the button underneath. So wow, electrical lighter. Awesome. Next question, of course.
Being a stunt man, he goes,
how's that feel when
how's
it
that
zaps
feel?
you?
I'm like, what are you talking about? How does that feel?
And it's clearly been used for a while, and no human interaction yet. So I was like, well, we got to see how it feels. He's like, wait, am I doing it or are you doing it?
Yeah. And he's like, I'll do it. And I was like, well,
I'm not
let's
one to push
start
violence
recording
onto
then.
somebody. Where do you think it goes? On my hand first? Is that where we're at?
I think on the hand.
Okay. Oh, it's really protected.
Wait, is it?
So you can't get in there. You'll have to go in the web.
Ooh. Are you really going to do that?
So I'm touching it on my skin. You can feel the little ticks of electricity, kind of.
Yeah.
But there's these two things that I don't know if that's good or not. What do you think?
Dude, I don't know about putting it in the web of your thumb. Are you going to do this?
What do you think?
I don't know.
It seems sketchy, doesn't it?
Oh, man.
Whoa, it bites you a little.
Yeah?
Yeah.
He just did it. He's doing it on the webbing of his thumb and his index finger. Oh, here it goes.
Oh. Yeah, it'll wake you up.
Well, that lit you up a little bit.
Smells a little, too.
Well, skin usually burns.
Flesh burning.
Yeah, that's flesh
your
burning.
Your apartment's not going to smell great. We got to protect this for your wife.
Okay.
We'll put that away. Thank you very much for
Well, that's a first on this podcast.
Well, that was good. It's I feel we got to test this stuff out. I think everything we're doing in life is like a beta test right now.
Yeah.
Like if you Google cell phone skin maladaptations in like 30 years from now, we're going to see a horror story of lesions and brain tumors and all types of shit just from regular cell phones that we have around us all the time. We're just buzzing with all this stuff all the time. So I figure, what the hell? We might as well just jump in, balls deep, right?
Yeah, let's give it a shot.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that on my eyelid, though. That was a thought that just crossed my mind, but I'm not going to.
You were thinking about doing it to your eyelid?
Like, I feel like if you pulled it out, it's sensitive skin. Yeah, I don't know why I'm going to the most sensitive skin. I'm not doing that on my balls, no matter what you say.
You thought about it, though.
But we'll have Bobby Lee over, and I heard that man, if dared, will do anything. Hey, guys.
Hey, oh, there it is.
That's that good butter.
You put a lot of butter in your coffee, don't you?
Oh, I will. I'll butter it up. I like to go goat, but I'll go with those sad, listless animals called cows, too. I don't care.
So you introduced me to your coffee the other day, Caveman Coffee.
Yeah, Caveman Coffee. Did you keep the cup? You
left did.
It there, didn't you?
No, I kept it.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. Do you know how excited my wife was?
How excited?
She's a huge coffee drinker. She
Really?
loves it, and she tried it, and she's like, this is amazing.
Really?
Yeah, she was super excited, and
I'll come by, show her how to do it anytime.
Yeah.
Whatever you want. I left the concentrate. We got a bottle of concentrate in the fridge right now that she can try. So you saw how I mixed it with like sparkling water.
that's what you're doing.
So I poured in the water to about here, and then I just poured in a bit of concentrate over the top.
Yeah.
And then I have a sparkly, delightful beverage. You not being a coffee drinker, probably the taste wouldn't be something that you would be into, but for a coffee drinker, it's a super nice, refreshing deal. And the cold brew aspect of it, a lot of the bitterness that's associated with regular coffee goes away when it's cold brewed. When the heat will bring out some of the acids and some of that bitter aspects of it, whereas cold brewing, all that stuff stays home. And you just have delicious smoothness. But if you're not a coffee drinker, it'd be like arguing like the different tones of beer or something. If you don't like the taste of beer, like you're like,
Right, then
fucking,
what
this is
are you
garbage.
talking
Why
about?
am I? Yeah.
Yeah. How long have you had this coffee
This
company,
has
Caveman
been
Coffee?
about 4 years ago, I guess we opened up something like that. And we just opened it up as coffee lovers. Keith had met our current roasters who roast most of our stuff. These Colombian brothers that they hadn't been exiled from Colombia, but they'd fled. They'd had a lot of kidnapping attempts during the cartel time and Pablo Escobar time, actually. And so they fled to Florida, and then they hooked up with their aunt, I believe it was, that was a flight attendant in Florida. She fell in love with some dude in Albuquerque, and then at like 12, 13 years old, they ended up in Albuquerque. And they grew there, and they worked in city government. They worked in a lot of different jobs, and then they went back to their roots of roasting as their family started to produce coffee again on the plantation that they'd grown up on. So all of our coffee started off single estate, single origin beans that were hand-picked and cold-washed and just all the highest protocols that could come by to get the best coffee we could. And so then, I don't know why we did it, but we just kind of had our foot in the water, and we're like, fuck, let's do this. And I guess I'd had a sharing thing. Like on Twitter, I would share bags of coffee back and forth with Jody Middick in Canada, or my friend Kyle in Australia, or dude in Ohio that I'd never met before. Just guys that I'd known, and I started talking about single origin coffee and the benefits therein. And then they started to send me bags of their favorite. And so as we met
It's like
these
a nice
roasters,
swap meet back and forth.
exactly, man.
Virtual swap meet.
It's like Oprah's book club, but for coffee nerds. And so I
Yeah,
kind
you
of
got to taste this one.
yeah, it was like that exactly. And so then
Now, would you consider
I
yourself?
was like, we got to put these up there.
Since you like know so much about coffee now, do you run into people who are like coffee snobs?
Well, they're everywhere, right? I mean, you give anybody the opportunity to be a snob, and people feel disenfranchised. And so if you were formerly feeling a little disenfranchised about your position in life, whatever that is, and then all of a sudden you're the guy behind the counter and you get to be a snob, I mean, people will be cunty with the little, you give somebody a name tag, motherfuckers get funny.
Yeah.
They just do.
Yeah.
You know, and the bottom line is, like, we just went to this national natural foods expo called Expo West, and Expo West was rad. And it's all like you get all the different buyers and all the different purveyors, and anybody with a new, like, I mean, there's 400 granola things or almonds or like whatever the new food is that Walmart, Kroger, all these guys are trying to pick up. Whole Foods. There's all buyers from everywhere, from anywhere you can think of. And it's all different products. I mean, from coconut oil to Frosty Pops, like to smashed, like it's all like smashed marshmallows and Rice Krispie treats. That was a great one. Smashmallow, I think they were called. Anyway, there's all these different products. And so there's like maybe 15,000 vendors. Like there's everybody is there, from Myers soaps to, Bulletproof Coffee made an appearance there. They were super cunty and everybody was mad at them instantly. But I'm just glad that like anybody that's out there that's pushing that health kind of agenda is in the space, man. Like wherever that is, it's like, that's a good narrative for America to take on and go, I'd like to think about what I'm putting into myself so that I don't end up strung out on pharmaceuticals when I'm 90 years old or whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
Like, and so it's cool to be in that space. And that's one of the coolest things about having a coffee company to begin with. However, that brings me back full circle to name tags and being cunty. Motherfuckers, if your job is security, you're a host. You're the smile that they see when they walk in the door and the smile that they see when they leave. And if somebody acts crazy in between, that's you. That's on you. But you're smiling. Most of the job is smiling. Don't lose that part of the job. You know, and this whole idea of like the other, of seeing people as the other. Like I worked security for a long fucking time. And when I had to quit security jobs, was when I started going, these people are shitbags. Because you see the general populace, a lot of shitbags in the world, Jeremiah. And you really try to fight to have this positive outlook for people, but we're not all on the same page. Yeah. And so when I started going, my biology is mutating for how I view people, I had to change occupations. And so then I became a full-time professional fighter.
I think we're getting a phone call in right now. I think it's it looks like it's one of those coffee snobs that you don't like.
Super duper.
Hello?
Hey, how are you?
Hi, is this one of the owners of Caveman Coffee?
Certainly is.
Now, that name just doesn't go down quite smooth for me.
The name doesn't go down smooth for me. There's a lot of dick jokes that are right on the other side of my consciousnis right now.
Well, if you are a barbaric man, which it sounds like you could be, then
It's
go
true.
ahead and make them.
It is true. I would like to say this, that is in this world of barbarism, which is, I mean, we're fraught with it as humans. And I would say it's the least tasteful for a civilized barista like yourself, I would think.
Oh, yes. I work at the Coffee Bean on Sunset and
really?
Crescent, so I really know my
It's really
stuff.
interesting. That's good stuff right there.
Now, does your company even have a Komodo dragon blend?
We're not even in Coffee Bean, yeah. And tea leaf.
Wow. Yeah, we have tea leaves as well. We're also in the tea company, so. It seems like you might need to expand your base a
I
little
don't want to assume your gender,
Okay.
but a little help.
Well, I am a male.
Okay.
Yes.
A straight male or a
I'm 19 years old.
Okay, so you're ambiguous.
And I haven't really decided what I want to be.
Good for you,
yet.
man.
Yes.
You know, flesh out. There's a lot of stuff out there to look at.
So as a coffee sommelier, as
Right.
myself, I feel like I really know everything there is to know.
Yeah. You know the interesting thing about knowing everything there is to know?
Yes.
It seems powerful, right? Like,
Oh, I feel great all the time.
yeah. What's interesting about it, though, is that when you consider that maybe if you didn't know, but when you do know everything you know,
Like
how much left is there to learn?
You know what? Sometimes I get bored because I'm just like, oh, what a drag. My brain is already full of all this information.
It's weird. You probably feel disrespected because you make like $12 an hour and you're like,
Exactly.
these fucking mutts out here driving their Bentleys through here. They don't know.
They don't even realize what I'm capable of.
Right. That's hard. That's a hard space to be in. Now, the other thing is that you probably argue a lot because if you know a lot, there's a lot of ground
I
have to.
I wouldn't say that.
I love that.
Oh, we lost him. I
Good
don't know.
call.
I don't
Good
know
call.
what
He'd probably break over.
Probably. I don't know. I guess he felt like, or he or she, I don't know what.
Or she.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there, but they felt that they knew more than you, and you own a coffee company, and they just
They
work
may.
part time there. It sounds
They may. It's a hard thing when you know everything. You got a lot of ground you got to defend. when you open up and you got some questions, maybe the world will open a little bit.
Yeah.
But I don't know. This is a strange time to be alive because I think that it would be very difficult to be a dating person in this world right now. I was reading a girl's Instagram page earlier and talking a lot about girl power, which I'm very into. I like that a lot, and then I started reading about the arguments, and the arguments are like, speaking up for myself whenever I can, and the ethos of the movement, if you will. And
it's a weird line right now.
and it's weird. It's weird that somebody I didn't know anybody in America needed to be told that it was okay to speak up for yourself. It's kind of like if you're 23 and you got finger banged by a guy, and then 8 years later you're like, that was my boss, and actually it wasn't cool. It's like maybe you should have said something at the time. It would be a little more potent.
Right.
But
they feel in danger at the time, or
Is that right?
they feel, I think that's what the main thing is. I feel like they feel like they're going to lose their job, or they're afraid of how it's going to affect their current situation, so they don't really want to come forward. And I think that's the main reason.
So when people say I would rather die than keep my mouth shut, they didn't really mean that. That was hyperbole.
Probably.
I got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Just being clear. Just being clear.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. It's a trippy thing. There's a real there's an attack on womanliness even in a way.
Yeah. So is it hard? I mean, is it hard to date right
For
now?
me, I
Like,
don't date anybody.
yeah. No?
I'm just over here trying to make millions, Jeremiah.
Hey, man.
I
Freaking respect
really,
that, dude.
Here's the thing: is that I feel like it's so easy to get. I'm such a pussy that I want to take all the tensions out of my life and just relax. That's what I wanted when I was 9 years old. And what that is cancer, right? That's a little bitch inside my heart that actually isn't on my side, right? That's my adversary in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that I have to do is create the tension. Anyway, it feels so great to be ensconced in the love of a woman that I find myself trading out other things that are helpful to me and that maybe fuel my life with that. And so that distraction, I don't know that I'm a strong enough person to be able to navigate all that deftly right now. And it doesn't seem like now is the time, but who knows, man? I mean, that's kind of how I look at it right now. And I think, and I think also, I don't know, on the real, as far as the dating for little kids and all that, it's like, you think about, well, people need to ask, like if you talk to a pretty strict feminist, she's like, you just have to ask everything. It's like, well, where does that leave any room for learning or for nuance of connection or for reading a person's vibe? Or like, I don't know anybody that had their first kiss and was like, is it okay if I kiss? Like that just doesn't happen. I mean, you talk about sex stories. It's like they're hilarious and everything because they're awkward and they're fumbling and they're everybody trying to find out. It's just like, we're a mess and we want to make these rules for sociological standards that maybe it's just because it's too easy to get food now and everybody's retired and they don't have to do a whole lot. And so they're like, let's find some other shit to just really bitch about how inadequate other people are treating me. Yeah. Instead of demanding your own treatment and rising to your own level.
Have you ever dated somebody like that, like a feminist?
No, man. I have hard times with the conversations. I want to hear the conversation. I really do.
Well,
like I want to have them on my podcast. I want to be in a position where it's like, well, let's really talk about that, like where the disenfranchised is, because it's different than black people. Like that's not the same. And I'm not going to say that there's not a misogynistic tone that happens over all the different overtures in society. Even in my coffee company, one of my partners, there's me and Keith Jardine and there's Lacey Mackey. Yeah. And Lacey's a motherfucker, man. She's a bad motherfucker in all the ways. Like beautiful and attention to detail and very high intelligence, always learning new things as the craft changes. And if she needs a website, she'll build it. Like whatever the fuck happens, she's a boss. And where I notice that misogyny is here in that caveman coffee conversation with some people. And I'm like, well, you're really better suited. People want to entreat me to different, here's a avenue we could go down. Here, let's do business like this. They want to talk to a dude. And I feel that. And I'm like, I'm not as capable as Lacey is at this conversation.
She's
man.
literally more qualified to discuss this with you.
That's not what's happening, man. Yeah. And so like that exists everywhere. And Lacey didn't scream for that or fight for that, except in herself. She created a standard, I think. And she's like, I'm going to be independent and self-actualized. And that was the standard she created as a little girl kind of. And I don't know. It's an interesting question, man. I don't think there's wrong answers, but there's often a disbursement of responsibility that I think isn't helpful to growth.
Lucky for you, I don't know if you
Lucky
know.
for me, there's some feminists on
There's
the
feminist Stacy is calling Aaron right now. I don't know if you've ever encountered her before.
I think I did a podcast with her. Okay. She dated a door guy at the store.
Hello?
Stacy, is that you?
Yeah, it is feminist Stacy. Hi.
Red.
First question.
Yeah.
Yeah, why isn't it called Cave Woman Coffee?
That is a great point. And you know what? It shows my privilege that I never even thought of that as a problem.
Yeah. How come you could have put put maybe some nurturing breasts on your logo?
Well, I think they tried that and then they made them take the breasts away. That was Starbucks, I think.
Yeah, because it was an exposed breast and she wasn't a pregnant mother that was breastfeeding. So they were objectifying her in a bad limelight.
A limelight, no less. Is it? Should men masturbate to the visage of women?
If they are masturbating to their mental capabilities, then maybe, but bodily functions and physical walks of the earth, no, absolutely not. That is objectifying to women.
Huh. What about pornography?
Pornography is disgusting. It is despicable. Why don't you masturbate to a woman's voice or her brilliant thoughts?
Well,
huh?
actually, the phone sex industry is huge. That is a thing. Sometimes I will masturbate to women's voices.
So you'll call up a line and a woman will read you a good book and you'll just start beating your meat vigorously, huh, Tait Fletcher?
Something
Something like that?
Something dissimilar to that.
Something dissimilar? Okay, fine.
Stacy, are you currently dating anybody?
No, I am a woman. Hear me roar. INTEPENDENT. Do you know what that means? Feminism.
I couldn't even hear the letters because I was just watching your lips move.
Okay, this is getting sexual, Tate, and I don't appreciate it one bit.
No, just the biomechanics of your mouth are fascinating.
Oh.
I mean, you must have really trained them for that.
I have. I've been working really hard on that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I can see your brain moving.
Tate, are you a single man?
Yeah. I'm many people. I'm not a single man.
Oh, I'm getting so worked up right now on your
Next
verbiage.
caller.
Okay, we just lost
Yeah,
feminist Stacy.
Stacy, yeah.
Sometimes,
Keep the wraps on.
Sometimes-
I'd like to see Stacy in 5 years from now. See what kind of ideology she's working with then.
yeah.
Not that any one is better than the other. I mean, I'm open to all crazy ideologues. Think you stay strict in the dogma, you'll be okay.
Right.
That's a bumper sticker.
That
You
is
go
a
ahead and
bumper
use
sticker.
that.
So you said you got fed up with doing security, and that's whenever you transitioned into.
That was part of it, but it was just. I just would say yes
What kind of
to
security?
the next
were
thing
you
that really
doing?
turned me on. I used to do club security. I'd run a nightclub
so
in
you're
the
running
Southwest
into
for a while
some
with
freaking
drunks.
douchebags, man.
But then also, I mean, even just the idea that somebody needs security, there's inherent problems either with that person as a person, which is sometimes the case. That's a person that creates problems for themselves, and their family hires me to come in and be which sucked. That was the worst. But even under the best circumstances, like I worked for Rogan for years, and that was rad. It's like you're going around with your friends and all that, but you're not creating your own life, you know. And I guess what I think about that. That's the thing that really kind of. I run down to the ends of roads and I go, okay, how much more do you want to, and it all becomes a question of like, when do you want to stop growing? And I feel like there was I got stagnant in that relationship.
What was your boiling point with like whenever you were maybe doing like helping Joe out with security?
It's an internal thing. I guess one of the things that happened, I had a couple fights after, but I felt like I was at the end of I was looking for something else. I was maybe, I don't know, late 30s, late 30s probably. And I was with Joey, with Eddie, Ari, and Joe. And we went over to the Standard after the store one night. And there was somebody that came up, hey, and pictures and introducing and all that kind of thing. And I go, whoa, what do you do? And Eddie pulls out a CD, gives him a CD. He used to walk around with a pocket of CDs and be like, I'm a musician, man. Here's some of my shit. And the guy goes, oh, cool. And Joe's like, and I'm a comic, and he's the commentator for the UFC. Like I go with him every day. Like that's where he makes a lot of money, but he's a comic. That's what he is.
Yeah.
He's a lot of other, and Ari was like, I'm a comic. And it's like, to see multidimensional people and they go, no, this is what I am though. Like if you took is Joe a podcaster? No, he's a comic. Like he's a fucking comic.
At the end of the day, strip everything else away. Comic.
And then it comes to me and I'm like, I'm not a fighter anymore. Like what I was like, so who are you becoming? Like, what's this incantation going to be? And that was a point to me. It's like, there's different parts of growth in the soul, I think, that happen. And I've been sober for a long time and I have these different pushes when it's like, I get pushes to go through like this kind of cleansing that I do, which interacts with my whole community, where there's a self-appraisal and then there's an admission of like, how have you when you come across these people's lives and you brush past whomever, has it been left feeling good or bad or whatever? And kind of like you're going through your life with a microscope and you're looking at like, where can I be better? Where can I be a better actor in this drama of life? Like where have I stepped on toes that I need to clean that up? And this self-appraisal that goes on with ensuing action that's going, hey man, I've wronged you. Where can I make this right? I'd like, and so it's a real self-leveling process that's not super great to do or comfortable. So I resist it. But then that in my chest, that tightness comes. And after a while, you're just like, I'm either going to fucking drink or I'm going to take care of this. And it becomes like that. And so for me, I come from that kind of a background of alcoholism, and I go, I need to stay in a right frame of mind. Otherwise I end up in places that I don't want to go. And so what does that look like? And that kind of became the same kind of thing, except for my life. And it was like, you know, my whole thing has been like that. Different roads have come to an end, and it's like, so who are you now? And it's scary shit to ask somebody. It's really scary to look into that. And that's why you see so many fighters, I think, hang on, and they take fights way further than they should, because who would I be without this? You see football players stay too long. You see a lot of people with these jobs that are like, dude, you shouldn't be doing that job anymore, and they keep doing that job, and then it ends up not so great. You know, you get deleterious results. And so I just wanted to become, you know, more and more as I become more, you know, you live in this awakening, and as you know, we call it maturing or whatever, but there's these different awakenings, these uncoverings that happen in your own soul if you're diligent with yourself and you stick with the frustration of your spot instead of just spinning out whenever you're doubtful, and you go, I'm going to hold the line, I'm going to stay strong, and I'm going to stand my ground, and I'm going to be open to whatever the universe is going to be becoming next. And then you take an idea of whatever that interest is and go into that. And so the next part of that for me became being developmental. And I developed a whole team to take over a gym of mine in Santa Fe, and took people from different walks of life that had a good mentality, a coaching mentality of like, these people thrived when they saw other people do better, which is kind of like the definition of a coach.
And that's who you want around you.
And so those
the
are people
who are bringing you up, and they're raising their game while they're bringing you up.
Right. So that became the next thing that I wanted to do, because I had this gym in Santa Fe, and I wanted to work more in film than I was doing anything like that. I didn't want to coach jiu-jitsu more than I wanted to be in movies.
Yeah.
I didn't want to coach a CrossFit class more than I wanted to be in a commercial or whatever. I wanted to be in the theatrics of that whole film world more. And so but I had a responsibility, and I knew I would feel like shit if the 200 people that went to my gym didn't have a place to go. And so it's like, for a couple of years, I spent time building these people up, and I'll transfer the sale of my gym to one of my coaches, who is one of my good friends back from the club days, and we'll go from there. But it's like being a steward of the energies that I create becomes important. Like, it's like, did you do it justice, or did you let it rot? Did you let it just kind of flake away, or were you a steward of a thing, and then you were able to keep it going even without you? And be of service to all these people, because I feel like it would have been a disservice to dump it, and I wouldn't have liked to live with that. So things that I wouldn't have liked to live with, I don't act in those ways. I make other adjustments so that I can be a person that I think is honorable, if that makes sense. So that kind of dictated when I'm having that space of like, well, who are you now? It's like, well, you're the fucking curator of this movement, and make this solvent so that it can go on without your help.
Yeah, it can live on, and then you can impact other people's lives by not just letting it go. You could have easily just sold that to somebody else.
All of it.
You know what I mean? That sold that gym.
It's all there. It's all just choices.
Whenever I started being able to confidently tell people, whenever they asked me, what do you do? And I was able to confidently start telling them, I'm a stand-up comedian.
How many times were you on stage before you could say that and didn't feel like a fake-ass bitch?
I had to, a lot of times. I had to, because so the main question I got, that specific question, was whenever I was working at Starbucks. So people would be like, so what do you what are
Right.
you doing out here?
You're not in
kinda thing.
Hollywood to work at this Starbucks.
Yeah, you didn't.
What's
you
up?
didn't move from Kansas,
Right.
to work at this Beverly Hills Starbucks.
Yep.
And it took like for the probably at least the first year or two that I was doing stand up out here, I was like, I'm doing stand up like whatever, and I wouldn't like be super comfortable saying like just flat out like I'm a stand up comedian, because like you said, you feel fake because you're like, I haven't like I want to be doing this, but I'm not fully in yet. So whenever I got to the point where I was like, I'm a stand up comedian and you should come to my show because you will have a good time. That's a great
next
feeling.
level.
That's a great feeling.
It's also brave as fuck.
Yeah.
Because what if you're not great that night, and then you've told all that you've promised a great
and it's the people who will come back. They see you every day.
Yeah, dude.
Which luckily I would invite people to those shows, and I would bring my A game whenever Starbucks customers would come out. I'm like, I have one shot on the like.
That's
if I mess
dope.
this up, then they will never come to a show again. So I'm like, it's gotta be lights out amazing.
That's so cool, man. I mean, and do you think that by creating the consequence of that, I mean, because that's the thing, right? I feel like where you do better in life is if you live a life that's consequential. And
Yeah.
so if you create more risk for yourself, you're getting a better result out of yourself.
I mean, I'm always my ideology and where I'm with comedy. It's big risk, big reward.
Fucking
always.
huge, man. That's so
Always.
cool. It's so
Because-
cool to bite that off.
Yeah,
Because it's easy to say. How many guys have you heard to be like, well, I do comedy sometimes, or and then you're like, you're not about it at all.
No, the more you talk to them, you start seeing holes in their stories, or like I can tell.
I ask guys, I go, so how many times you go up? Well, I haven't been up. I'm like, you ain't a comic, and they're like, well, you're not. I go, I know I'm not, but I know what it takes. I know what it takes to be an athlete, and that's what a comic is.
Yeah.
A comic is an athlete, and if they're not training this dude told me one time, he goes, all these motherfuckers out here saying they're fighters, Tate. I go, yeah, and he goes, and this is like transitioning. He goes, because I'm in transition too, folks. He goes, a lot of people say they're actors too. It's the same thing. But like, what are you doing that's actory today?
Yeah.
What are you doing did you train today? Are you a fighter? Like, did you go and work on a script? Are you auditioning? What are you doing actively every day? Because the thing that you are is what you're doing. It's not what you're thinking about doing. It's not what you did yesterday. It's not what you would like to do someday. It's the thing you're involved in. Are you balls deep in it? Because if you're not, how do you really expect success? You might get it, but you can't really expect it because you haven't earned it. You want to earn it? And it's like, I know what earning it looks like. And that's why when comics that are like, I'm like,
I can find out in 2 to 3 questions how serious and how like often they do it, because
what are your questions?
They'll be like, I perform at the Comedy Store. Okay, that's what they'll say every once in a while. I go, oh really? What show was it and who ran it? And then they'll tell me, and I go, okay. And I'll know exactly.
Right.
I'll know exactly how long they've been doing it, or if they're just bringing friends to a show and they're getting put up on stage. Because I'm like, and this was even before I was a paid regular at the Comedy Store. I would, it's a sense of pride. It's like somebody,
of course, man.
It's like somebody being like, oh yeah, I fought in the UFC before,
Dude,
and then you're
first
like,
time
what are you talking about?
When Mask, who was one of the owners, he's the reason Tap Out was really him and Scrape, and there's a group of them. But like when he threw me my first T-shirt and was like, "Hey, dude, you want to represent Tap Out today at the Grappler's Quest?" I was like, so stoked,
of course,
because it's like being a paid regular. It's like it's a T-shirt, man, but it's like, man, this is a dude that believes in me, that has a real company, and it's like, you fucking walk a little bit taller, man.
Yeah.
It feels good.
You're literally, you're wearing this accomplishment on your shoulders. You're like, man, this is what I've been working for.
cool.
It's so cool.
That's the dopest. I remember what it was like when the first time I signed up for a tournament and they had tournament T-shirts and it has a competidor on the back, and I was like, fucking right, man. Like,
Yeah.
and I mean, it's just, I couldn't have been more proud.
I mean, every Christmas they would give at the Comedy Store, they give the employees like gifts there, and that's such like a cool like.
What kind of gifts?
Like one year they gave these mugs, which I have on my desk over there. It has the Comedy Store's logo engraved on the front, and then they had a professional glass
Like an
carver,
etcher?
like an etcher, etch your names just like in the
Super,
walls
dude,
outside.
man.
Like so, he
Super.
in cursive wrote Jeremiah Watkins on the mug.
cool.
And it's just stuff like that. You're like, man, this is like, it's just like little reminders. You got to give yourself little victories. Like you're like, this is so cool. Like all the work and the time, like these little things mean so much more than they probably should, but it helps you mentally.
Dude, it's a beautiful mental thing, and it's a distinction. It's a class distinction. It's a caste system. It's like, to be a paid regular, you're not getting rich, but you're that. You know, it's like you're that thing. You're fucking, you know, not everybody could say that. You know, that's a limited group of folks. Like, I don't know how many there are there, but it's not into the thousands. I don't think,
it's,
you know,
it's just over. Yeah, I think it's,
and those are people that are dead and everything. When I say over the thousands, like, don't get it twisted if you don't know the Comedy Store scene. Like, I mean, like, there's 50 that are active or something. Or
the
100.
Comedy Store's been open for 45 years, I believe, somewhere around there, and there's around 1,000 paid regulars.
Yeah.
Like, and that's in 45 years.
Fucking gorgeous.
It's
man.
crazy.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
It really, really is. What do you think of guys that are comics like Josh Gad or something? That's like he's a
comedic
TV,
actor.
TV comic, right? But calls himself a comedian. No. I think that's not a comedian. I think it's a different thing. Right?
I always call them comedic actors. That's what I call them.
Comedic actors. Okay.
Just because I feel like comedian, you have to be like on stage. But Josh Gad is a special thing because he did Broadway Book of Mormon and stuff. So it's like a weird. That's an interesting one. But for the most part, I was just like, oh yeah, that dude's a funny, like Jonah Hill or somebody like that, comedic actor. Seinfeld, comedian, 100%.
All over.
Oh yeah.
That just
there's nothing more.
Like, it'd be like
more
Louis CK.
comedian.
Yeah,
than,
he also had TV shows, but he's a fucking comic.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Is he gonna come back? What's happening?
2 or 3 years, I think.
You think it'll be that long?
Yeah.
Goddamn,
That's
Donald
not that
Trump
long.
can say, I'm going to finger bang a newborn baby, and he's still our president, and it's going to take 3 years because the guy likes to jerk off in front of people? Is that what he did? What did he do that's wrong? Do we know?
Yeah. He was jerking off in front of women. He was whipping his dick out like in hotel rooms or in green rooms that he would have brought like his openers on the road.
A green room is bold.
Yeah. So
if it strikes you where you have to jerk off inside the green room,
I think there was at least one green room.
It's a strong libido on him. He's an older guy too. I'm impressed.
Well, what I don't get is like, are you jerking like a limp penis? That's my thing. Like, how do you get worked up on nothing?
That's what I'm wondering. Like,
I'm like, are you just
that
yanking
virile
skin?
that he's hard all the time? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, no, I think he's gonna come out with a special
2 or 3 years. He's gonna have to talk a lot about it.
Yeah, no, that'll be a big.
But I think that you have to talk about it while it's relative, because relevant. Because if too much time passes,
he could also, because he's dropped by all of like the people who have like represented him in the past. He was dropped by all those people, so he might put out his own special like on his website, because that's originally what he got kind of like known for, is putting out his own content directly where people could download stuff. So you never know. So
do you think, rightly so or not, that he was dropped?
They have to right now. Like the way, like, I think what's hard about the whole situation,
like,
for
we got to cut you from the UFC, but you'll fight again next year.
That's what I think is going on, because they can't represent those kind of actions. He admitted he was guilty. They can't endorse that kind of action. You know what I mean? So they have to get rid of it for a while. And he said he's going to work on it. And this is my problem with the whole thing. He and Al Franken are a couple of the only people who have straight up admitted that they were at fault and that they did something wrong with these allegations that are going on with this movement right now. And they have been disciplined the hardest, and they're the guys who actually came forward and said, hey, I did something that was very wrong. I need to work on it. And that's the whole argument with like the Donald Trump stuff that's going on.
Reprimanded.
He's still in the office, and he's had sex with porn stars, and like more allegations
his
are coming out.
His wife is Eastern European or Russian. Like, it's like, we want to check passport. Like, it's like, for all, like, and not that I have any issue with any of that. Like, great, like, do all that. But like, for a guy that's so adamant about, fuck foreigners and fuck Donald Trump, where's his birth certificate and all that, it's like, you act awful funny for a dude that and
is literally married to,
and all his supporters are a trip. I don't understand Donald Trump supporters. I mean, I understand like rich ones, I guess, but like poor people, like he ain't on your side, y'all.
Well, it's a shield. It's a veil over the eyes. I mean, it's saying buzzwords that, in my opinion, and I can't really speak, like I'm not like a very political guy or anything like that at all.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
Come on, Tate. Come on. Electrocute yourself one more time, man. Dude, this is so much fun.
Yeah, that's your skin burning.
Yeah, man. I like that scent. That's a good scent right there.
It's like a potpourri.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's certain buzzwords that got him into the office that
and I think it surprised him.
Dude, yeah, I think
he didn't expect that.
I think he was doing it as a publicity stunt, and
nobody expected it. And then he's like, "Oh, thanks, Russia."
But then all the people who are supporting him and are on his team are like, "Now let's do something."
Well, now I think the real problem with that, like the whole Russia thing, is like he's just defending, like, "No, I really did win." It's kind of like that's what it sounds like all the time. It's like, are you not, as the leader of the fucking free world, the least bit interested in how we were infiltrated in that way? That our whole dominion of democracy has been kind of overthrown, and you're not interested in, like, even if I'm the president and I'm like, oh shit, it looks like I got in because Russia fucked up a lot of there was a big disruption. Even if that's not the whole reason, I'm like, well, let's look into that and let's tighten up our shit so that this doesn't occur anymore, as opposed to being like, no, that's not real. It's like, anyway, I'm interested in Al Franken when you say he admitted it, because I feel like he admitted it in a way that it's like, that's the thing that a polite man does. I feel like he was taking the high road.
He was, and he got stripped from office.
And saying that stuff, and he stepped down from office because I think they asked him to, I'm sure. And he's like, we'll do this or whatever. But like, that's wrong. Like he said, he's apologizing for 2 incidences. One is that Leanne Tweeden? Is that the woman that he was on Saturday Night Live with? At any rate, there was a woman who was an old like Skinamax star, I think, basically, that was on SNL. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's not right. But she was a star of she was back in SNL. She was on SNL at some time. She had a leather bodice or some kind of garment on over her breasts, and they take a comical picture of him behind her, I think, with his hands as if they're grabbing the breast, but they're not. And there's a bunch of 20-somethings goofing around on SNL or something. It's like,
well, it was I think it was on an army base. He was doing shows, and it was a soldier that was wearing a bulletproof vest. And so he was touching the bulletproof vest like while she was asleep as a gag. And the joke,
hadn't heard this one.
Well, I think that's the one I'm familiar with.
Okay.
And basically, he's touching the bulletproof vest where her boobs are. The joke is he's not actually touching her boobs because she has protection.
Right.
But it's technically
it's the intonation.
It's the intonation, and is like he's technically putting his hands on her chest, so it's like you can't, and she's sleeping, so it's like a creepy weird thing. So, and
isn't he the one too that a fan says, can I take a picture with you, and he says sure, and he puts his arm around her, they take a picture, and he goes thanks, and he gives her a couple of squeezes on the ribs or something, and she's like, yeah, and he squeezed me twice, and that was another tip. It's like,
I don't know.
It's like equating these types of actions where we have to disseminate it that much with an actual rape, like a Harvey, is fucking lunacy, man. Yeah. And if you conflate all of those, what you lose is you lose any justice for rape, because now all the guys that are kind of middle of the road already, it's hard enough to fucking, I mean, we got a white kid that rapes on film, on camera, and he does 6 months and he gets out. Mm-hmm. And just the whisper that a black guy might have raped a white girl, even if she recants later, dudes lose their lives.
Yeah,
it's fucking
completely
lunacy
messed up.
What's happening.
Yeah.
And that will push more people into going, is it really and that's a horrible question. Nobody should have to utter. Was it really rape?
No,
but that's what's happening right now, where you're changing the way language works, because people like to complain a lot. And so even stuff that are non-complaints that should be laughed out of countenance, they're given a voice. And I don't know that that's the best way. It feels like a sadness a little bit. It feels like a loss.
For sure. The fact that, like you're saying, that anybody has to utter that sentence at all.
Right.
Well, was it real? It's like, what are you talking about? Well, what are we living in right now where that's going on?
I listened to Kirk Fox the other day a little bit, and he's talking about like rape apologists. They're calling me. He's like, who's trying to apologize for nobody's that doesn't exist. That's not a thing that's happening.
It's insane.
Anyways,
so to get on a little bit lighter note, it's funny. That's probably like the darkest I've ever gotten on this podcast talking about this.
I
stuff,
go dark, Jeremiah.
But it's good though.
I go dark.
I mirror my guests. So wherever you want to go,
I'll go
freaking
deep.
Go, dude. I'll freaking go there, dude.
I like your enthusiasm.
Yeah, man. So what was your first break like after you had been fighting, like, I guess as far as like a film role that you were like pumped about? You're like, I'm going to be freaking...
The first thing that I really got excited about was a commercial. And it was while I was fighting. And I got to be in this commercial that was a Toyota commercial. And they said, hey, you want to go make $329 today? Or whatever weird price SAG was paying for a day on a commercial at that time. I said, sure. And so I drove up to this, it's not a med spa, but it's like a spa.
Okay.
So you go in and there's like...
Not like the Korean spa.
No. It's like outside. It's like, so we're up in New Mexico and it's, the name of the place will come to me, but they have like mud baths and they have iron and they have all sorts of different natural steam kind of tubs that are there.
Okay.
And so there's all these different minerals and elements that are there. That this has these healing qualities. So we're all in a mud tub, and I come up out. Anyway, that was my thing, and I just went for the day. I'm playing around in this mud hot tub with a couple people, and it's like I come out of the mud, and I'm like, hey, you're from my building in New York or something. And it's like this how small the world is, and these guys are touring all through America, and they keep running into people they know in their Toyota. And but then over the course, it was right when I moved to LA, and then over the course of the next couple of years, they maybe gave me $25,000 or $30,000, and I was like, "This is fucking amazing! How do you keep this party going?" And years later, it was years after I was done fighting, and then the first when I was in Red Dawn, I thought, man, maybe this is something this is the next thing that I start to do, and that's what I really got interested in. And it turned me on in the way that when they say action, it's kind of like when they say, "Are you ready? Are you ready? Fight!" And it was like. It's like it's yours to lose, and here's this energy that's up, and it's on you now. And like it's like you're saying, living with consequence. It's like there's tens of thousands of dollars at stake with every shot that you're doing here.
You don't want to waste people's time or their talent or their energy around you. So you're like, let's go.
All of it. And so that yeah. And if somebody else fucks up, cool. Like I'm just here to do the reps as long as it's not me.
Yeah.
And so
that's kind of cool that you have that adrenaline rush whenever you hear action.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
It's like you can get into a flow state with that kind of a thing. And the real thing that I loved about it is that it was similar to fighting in that, like, I wanted to, the guys that had helped me, man, that's always been my thing in life. The guys that had helped me, I wanted to show them that it wasn't for nothing. And so like in fighting, maybe too much, but I put a lot of weight onto making somebody else proud, or like doing honor to the flag I was wearing, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the same thing, like the guys that hire me, man, I want them to think they've got the best guy for the job. I want to really show them that this was the right thing. I take a lot of pride in that, and that became like, I was like, this is just like that. And maybe this, as your body, you're not going to continue to be a fighter at any kind of high level. And then even at mid levels, and then at low, you're just going to, eventually you're going to get old, wither, and die. So on that road, how can you mimic this kind of feeling where you're turned on about life to that degree? And like, I really found that in performance.
That's awesome.
And a lot of my stuff is super physical that I do. I come in through acting through the stunt world. And so it's like, it's super gratifying.
Yeah. Whenever I hear my name called, whether it's a host or another comic bringing me up, it's that same jolt that you get where it's that fight or flight, and it's fight time whenever you go to the stage. And I recently did a show with Tony where we went to Red Lobster, and I got sick, and I literally was throwing up right before I went on stage. And he's looking at me before I go on, and I'm supposed to do like close to half an hour before him. And he goes, "Dude, are you okay? What's going on?" I'm like, "I'm sick. I'm good though." He goes, "Like you don't look good." I'm like, as soon as I hit the stage, I'll be fine. And
yeah, because you become something different,
right? And as soon as my name got called, I went up there and smile on the face, adrenaline kicked in, and I had a great set. And I talked to Tony after the show. He's like, dude, that was crazy. Like just that switch. But it's that fight or flight mentality.
And the consequences are super high now.
Well, and he's relying on me to make sure that like the show is set up well for him. He's about to do an hour. I'm doing half the amount of time that he's doing. I got to make sure that crowd is in a good place for him. Like there's a reason why he brought me.
I've never seen him do a full hour.
Oh yeah.
Dude,
yeah, that's what he always does on the road. Yeah.
Like when you guys go down south to San Diego or something like that again, or something, I've got to see that because like to see guys.
Oh, it's so different than the 15. Yeah, it's
I see him as openers or I see him in 15-minute sections at the OR. And then because for me, I look at it, you know, as guys build that, you build to or whatever. And so it's like, right now, I'm sitting here impressed. I'm like, you got a solid half hour, like a good, confident half. That's fucking enormous.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so cool.
Yeah. It's just reps over and over, just like doing shows at the Comedy Store and around town. And
now,
everything like that.
Do you always only do them? Do you go, okay, this is my half hour I'm working right now, and it's always in this order? Or do you have an optimal place that you want to get to with it? Or are there jokes or bits that you can put in and out of different places or what?
My favorite thing to do for me personally, and everybody's super different with their approach, my favorite thing to do is having a very loose plan and feeding off the audience, and it's like a choose your own adventure. Like if they're really digging this joke, how about we go over here? Or if somebody says something or there's some kind of energy that's different in the crowd, I'm going to go into this bit over here. So I try to tailor each set to the audience of that particular show on that particular night. But sometimes I'll be running, like whenever I went on tour with Tony, I forced myself to discipline myself to work on the same 30 on 10 shows in a row. And that's hard for me because I always have more fun with spontaneity and variety and different, but I tried to run the same set, the exact same order, 10 cities in a row.
Good practice, good discipline.
It's great practice. Yeah, it's good discipline. It's not my favorite thing to do, but it's a good skill set to have whenever, like, if, you know, eventually I shoot a special down the road, I'm going to need to have that locked in format.
Dude, and I've seen it. That's what I've asked before. I asked Joe and Ari one time. I was like, do you ever feel like, you know, like it's contrived? Or because the nature of it is, it's like an act that every utterance, like, and because I watch so much and I go, when he's at his 8 o'clock show and his 10 o'clock show, where he's like, that sigh is in the same place at the same time, you know, it's all these utterances. Every utterance, every breath literally is set up.
With Joe?
Yeah. Like,
and everybody's different.
At that time, I'd see that and I was like, holy fuck. But then I'd see him if a crowd was drunk or he starts to lose a crowd. And then he's got jokes that he goes into and he'll tell the whole crowd, he goes, yeah, that's a cucumber up the ass Arnold Schwarzenegger imitation joke. And everybody thinks that stuff up your ass is funny. So you guys were getting a little screwy, brought you back in. Good. Glad to have you. And then he'd go back into another. But the corralling that happens is fascinating.
It's a lot of corralling. Yeah. It's the keeping the attention and making sure you're not losing people, because it's so easy to do. To hold for one person to go on stage and hold attention over somebody whenever you're headlining for an hour, that's what makes it an art versus somebody who is a pro versus somebody who is just filling the hour and doing time. And that's the difference between seeing somebody like a Rogan or an Ari or a Joey Diaz to somebody who is not ready for that time yet. They'll fill the hour, but they're losing the audience a lot in that hour. It's a big difference.
There's a lot of laugh track that happens in there.
Yeah.
It's cool to see, man. I like it. I like it so much, and I like Joey's approach, how different his approach is.
Yeah,
and every night's a fucking little different animal, you know.
Dude, it's like if you ever played like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat or whatever, you see the different stats and the different strengths in different areas. You look at the lineups at the Comedy Store, and you're like, oh, this guy has like the agility, but this guy has like the punch. He's got like the stronger. Yeah, it's that same thing.
And are you want like what you get to? It's cool because you get to choose what you want to hear. Dude, that's going to be super. It's hilarious. It's going to be super aggressive. I want something that's a little softer, like the way Sebastian delivers is like a whole different thing. I mean,
yeah, right.
and then you're arching in to listen.
Aren't you embarrassed?
So good, dude.
It's so great.
It's so good.
Yeah.
And then I love like
Went to Chipotle the other day.
Eliza Schlesinger and how
She's machine gun.
dude, and her characterizations. Like she's like a female Rogan, I think, in the way that she fucking moves and she's fucking like she's very physical and
Yeah.
and she's
definitely like
it's a
alpha
whole different
female,
thing.
you know?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
a whole different deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a trip. Anyways, I love it. I'm fascinated.
Let's get to some
Did
of these.
you know when you were in Kansas that you wanted to be is that your purpose when you came out to get your Starbucks job?
Oh yeah.
So
yeah,
how many times had you gone up in Kansas before you got here?
So I was doing improv back in Kansas City, like in high school and college, just like taking classes.
Right.
But there wasn't many places where you could perform if you were under 21. Like
Right.
stand up in Kansas City, you had to be 21 to even get into the club. So I was like, I want to move to LA. I'm going to start doing stand up whenever I'm 21, and I'll start taking improv classes out there. But I knew like that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. I've got a little tap room coffee house in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and there's no places there really to get up. There's a couple, open mics for like there was a poetry thing for this and that, but like just I've got a friend of mine who's all into it, and he's setting up a microphone over there to do that, to offer that, because I think what a great training ground wherever you are. I mean, to start where you are is where you've got to start before you can move into like the big gyms, which would be like moving here, I think, and getting on stage. It's like amazing.
I mean, before I started going to the Comedy Store consistently, I was hitting random coffee shops, random little theaters, random bars. Like, yeah, so many times before I was like, oh, I'm ready to actually start even walking into this new dojo.
I mean, that's what thing you look at Joey Diaz, and he doesn't look like a driven character so much, and I never met a guy more disciplined in like back in the day, and he'd be like, yeah, I'm going to Ha-Ha's, and then I'm going to go over here, and then I got a spot down in the South Bay, and then like he would spend $60 in gas driving around to 4 different venues to go up for 5 minutes a piece at these different places, man. It's like that's what comedy is, in a lot of ways, like, and that's where you get, I think, all those lifelong friendships probably. I mean, that's why there's like different classes, right? There's the class of 82 and the class of the early 2000s.
The people who you train with and everything. I mean, you know
everything.
those people so well, like you've been on teams with and everything. Yep. It's like those are lifelong friends that like only you guys have that connection.
Yeah,
and it's the exact same thing.
How did the roast battle, the row come up?
Oh, had the wave?
Yeah, the wave.
It was like an organic thing, man. Originally, it was literally like 8 black guys in the corner it was like a Def Jam parody. Whenever a joke would hit, they would be like, oh, and then eventually they would go up on stage and be like, oh, like this is crazy, like doing the robot and dancing. And eventually they were a guy down one night, and Jamar and a couple other guys asked me to fill in. It just clicked instantly, and the longer we started doing it, like we're like, we need to, like, this is super one-dimensional right now. And that's whenever we started bringing in props and different stuff, and like let's get crazy with these act outs.
It's crazy how good you guys are, all like really thoughtful act outs though, that come up in a goddamn, to even say seconds isn't right. It's like in milliseconds, and you guys are all kind of acting in unison as if it's a trained thing. And that's the crazy thing about working out with the same people. Well,
you start knowing their moves and stuff like that, and you start kind of developing a unique language. Like I have a unique language with Jamar and Willie. Like whenever we're like in it and we're 100% connected to the jokes and stuff, we're getting things ready. But it's like literally like almost like caveman like characters where we're tapping on stuff and quickly saying words to get stuff ready because there's no time. There's no time. It's such a quick thing. I was wondering what the
interaction beforehand is. That's I'd love to have just a camera on you guys to show like all the intricacies of those setups as you go in and blast.
It's all eye contact, and it's also a rule that we have. It has to be unanimous. We have to all think it's funny. We have to all think it's funny before we go up there.
Because it's edgy as fuck too.
Yeah.
Well, you got to read The Rise of Superman. You remind me of this section in the book where there's all these guys in squirrel suits, and they jump off the Sears Tower in Chicago for a Transformers movie.
Mm-hmm.
And the train, and this is just one part of the book, but they go into it. They go, there's 4 guys that are flying through these buildings. But if I wait until Jeremiah's, like say his foot twitches, his left foot twitches every time he banks a 90. Well, if I'm waiting to see his tell of that foot, I'm too late. I'll never catch the arc.
Right.
And so I have to go in unison. And it's like that idea of like when you watch a school of fish and they all move at the same direction, or birds, a flock of birds. There's no leader that goes first. They're working as a single unit.
Yeah.
And that's what you're describing about what you guys have. And it's fucking fascinating, man.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, it's great. Anyway,
let's get into
let's do
this
it.
next segment, fanning out.
Fanning out. Questions from fans.
I reached out to the Instagram and Twitterverse and asked the internet if they could ask Tait Fletcher any question, what would it be? So let's start with this one right now.
I'm going to say every answer to all these questions right now is reps. You just got to put in a lot of reps and fall in love with the work. That's what. And now, what's the question?
Okay, perfect. That will probably cover some of them, honestly. This is a cool one. At FlexBad on Instagram. Of all your many pursuits and endeavors, which one brings the most satisfaction and joy to your life? Why?
It's the stuff that nobody ever sees that does that for me. And that's when I'm able to be one-on-one helpful with somebody else that is suffering from alcoholism. It sounds it's super. This is the realest answer, though. It's being able to be a service and watch people change their lives, and to be able to be a stand for that and have an answer of depth and weight, which can transcend a seemingly hopeless area for a family's life or for a person's life, and that's probably the most fulfilling out of any of those endeavors, and it's probably the thing that number one keeps the rails on my life. I'll say that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's something that's really cool, and I have family with alcohol issues, and I'm sober. I actually have never drank before, and a big part of that is because I've seen what it can do to people and how it's affected me and other people.
The upside for you just doesn't look, as far as knowing intimately the downside, you're like, this upside's not up enough. Like, I don't know how to risk that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right. That's
super
something
cool.
like that.
At Rebecca Glaze Artist on Instagram, what's it like to be on the iconic last episode of Breaking Bad and be able to brag that you were killed by Walt?
I'm glad that you're bragging for me. I've never done that, but I think it's
got to be a good feeling,
and an honor,
right?
man. It's like that's a thing that's. I mean, you talk about 1,000 names being on the Comedy Store wall, or of that ilk, right? That are of that measure, and it's the same number about probably, I don't know how many SAG Awards are out there, but I was able to go to the SAG Awards, which is like, I didn't deserve in any kind of, like, whatever. I was just a dude that was around some awesome people is what it was. And I was getting towed in with the rest of them because I'm in the last 5 episodes of that. And then they all got SAG Awards, and I got to be on stage with Bryan Cranston and all them and receive that. And it was it's a crazy, for me, it's a thing that's so crazy because it's not something that like I'd ever look to when I'm growing up in Alpena, Michigan, and I go, oh, here's a possibility. That's an impossibility, man. And so it's like, just even to go, yeah, man, here's how small the world is. And I think the kind of like maybe me too that comes up from that from people is fucking huge, man. I think it's a cool thing when you go, hey man, this guy's not super talented. He's not whatever, but he just tried and he kept trying. And then all of a sudden this thing happened and he positioned himself to be in that place for that thing. And that's fucking kind of cool. Maybe I could do that too. And I could change my place in life, and so,
that's
to
the
be on it,
definition of inspiring.
It's huge, right? It's huge. I mean, that show in particular and Westworld, I mean, they were amazing because I think that Westworld is that kind of
and you have
iconic.
You have an
iconic
iconic scene.
Yeah. I was
too.
the title of that. I was in a few of them, but I was mostly in as a dead person, I think. But in the one, it was called The Stray, and I was the stray. I was the woodcutter that wandered off and found a glitch in his system and tried to erase his consciousness because he saw that this was going to be deleterious to humans, which is kind of, foreshadowing of the rest of the show.
Yeah,
and
you
that was
smash
amazing.
a rock over your
Yeah, I
head
killed myself.
over and over to kill yourself.
I was so hopeful too, bro. I keep waiting. I'm going, listen, man, they're robots. Bring me back.
Yeah,
Put me in,
absolutely.
Coach. Put me in.
Yeah.
But they just wrapped up the second season of it. And hopefully it just keeps going and going and going.
You told me that your like a cast of your body is in a warehouse somewhere. That's so crazy.
Yeah.
It's like a mannequin Tait that's just like living in a warehouse.
Sitting at full dick, the whole deal. They don't put clothes on them. I walked through this warehouse, bro.
Did you look at your dick and you're like, okay, that's cool?
Well, before I did, I go, hey, dude.
Can
cool.
You
just be cool.
hey, when we did the casting, man, it was a little cold in here.
Be cool, man. Be cool. Yeah, they're so talented, and for that show, they were all this whole warehouse in the valley, all these heads and various disassemblage and full body man, because everybody that's in the saloon, all the hookers, we're all these casts. Oh, it was crazy. It was a trip.
That's insane. Oh, we're gonna call her right now.
All right.
Hello, caller. Who's this?
Hey, I have a little bit of a complaint. I haven't finished the Breaking Bad series yet, and why did you not tell me a spoiler?
That is the thing we're supposed to do now. We're supposed to hashtag spoiler.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a spoiler alert, and I was listening to the show, and I'm really frustrated right now.
Is that even 5 years after the fact? How many is there if I told you what happened when Fonzie was going to jump over the shark, and I told you how that ended, because that was a 2-part or maybe 3-part Happy Days.
I just started the Happy Days season. How could you ruin that for me? I had that in my queue.
Yeah. You ever seen this idea about the school of what's happening now?
Okay.
That's it.
Sorry, we didn't say spoiler alert.
Yeah,
apparently,
spoiler a lot. Yeah.
Yikes!
Fonzie makes it.
Oh man, that guy's gonna be upset.
He's
gonna be really upset that you just spoiled that.
It's a good show though.
I got a.
I was just at Ron Howard's birthday party last weekend.
Were you really?
Yep. Ron and Bryce Howard had a birthday party together, and that's where I met George Lucas. There's like 100 people in this place. I got invited because Lacey trains Bryce, and she's like, you and Tait should come down to my thing. And so we went down, and it was just phenomenal.
That's so cool, man.
It's phenomenal, man.
What's it like?
I'm looking at Richie Cunningham, Opie, and then everything that it's an amazing thing. And the biggest thing about it all, like when I get in awe about that, like I just met this dude, and he, how people get weird around famous people, kind of like it's a thing that it happens to everybody. I love like, I think as Neil Brennan does a joke about it. He's like, everybody gets nervous around famous people. People that say that they're cool with it, they're also nervous around. He's like, it's like you're playing an imitation of somebody that's being cool is what you're doing when you're around famous people. He says it's like when you pull up next to a cop. And you pull up, you're acting as if you're a normal driver. Like, look at that, officer, 10 and 2, just happened to be there. How are you doing? Like, you're pretending it's normal, but there's nothing normal about the situation. And that's kind of a thing in a way, but the other thing is it's not real for anybody else. Everybody's just normal people. Literally everybody is, unless their egos are all fucked up. But like those people, just normal, solid fucking people that are doing what they love and expressing their art, and it took them to a certain place after they'd done it for a long enough period of time. And, I'm in a room like that, I'm watching George Lucas wipe fucking cake off his mouth. And I'm like, this is just some normal shit, man. And that's what the world wants from you, just normal, authentic shit. Just go be you. That's the right answer always. What's my purpose? Doing the thing you love the most. That's the right answer.
I know his son, Jet, and he's like super nice guy and super grounded for especially having
really deep redheaded guy, right? Or is that the different? Because I met one of them there, but he looked like Ron Howard as a kid almost, like he's like real ginger.
Oh no, I don't. No, it's
I think there's 2 boys he has.
Oh, it's did I say it's George Lucas's son. I didn't mean to say Ron Howard's son. Yeah. But he's super grounded and super nice and like never like even like really talks about it. He's just like a chill dude who's just like, He's a good he's a good guy. But it's interesting how people will perception-wise change like how they shift their body and like
watch when somebody walks in a room.
Oh,
if you know Adam Sandler's about to walk in the room, watch how motherfuckers start to change as soon as he walks in the room.
Oh, I think we're getting a call right now,
baby.
Hello.
Hey, is Tait Fletcher there?
Mr. Sandler, how are you?
Hey, I heard you were talking about me, so I wanted to call into the program.
We're both really glad you did. I mean, Jeremiah's ecstatic, and I can't believe it, really.
I am so excited. I can't believe
crazy.
Sandler is calling in right now.
What's crazy about you, Mr. Sandler, is the fact that, like, we were just talking earlier about comics or comedic actors, and like,
Yeah, okay.
I mean, you've written the definition for both.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And what is your favorite movie of mine that you've seen?
You know what I really love most is the songs that you used to do. I bought all the cassette tapes.
You really like that?
I loved them.
You
loved
like
them.
it?
You know, you're the reason why I like one. There's a guy at the Comedy Store right now that he loves his guitar as much as it looks like you loved that guitar that you used to play. And he sings a lot of great songs too.
Is his name Pat Reagan?
That's it. How do you know him? Is that your kid?
He's a young up and comer. I love that boy. I love him so much. He's skyrocketing to fame very soon, I'm sure.
Fantastic. I hope so. I mean, there's nothing holding him back.
I know. I've got to go shoot another grown-ups movie. I'll talk to you
I don't
soon.
feel like that's the right move, but you do you.
Okay, you know, I've got to help out some friends.
Got it.
He's a nice guy. He's
the best with his friends too.
He's the coolest.
Who is the
That's
gigolo
what I
guy?
respect so much. Rob Schneider.
Rob Schneider keeps giving Rob Schneider work.
Oh yeah, man.
It's phenomenal.
It's the coolest. I mean, if ever that's like a goal. I actually had a dream with Sandler in it last night because I watched this video.
He's coming through the store this weekend. I can feel it, bro.
He probably will. Well, he's been going around town.
He's been going around.
I should have asked him. I had this dream with Sandler because I watched a video yesterday.
Is it because I was in the longest yard with him, and that's what you were? That's
probably.
probably.
He's been in the back of my ether, and then he called in,
and then
the whole thing.
I love it.
Was that cool being in the longest yard? You said you were in that with Joey Diaz.
Synchronicity.
And Tracy
That's where
Morgan.
I met Joey Diaz.
Yeah.
Joey Diaz, Terry Crews. That's where I met those guys.
And that's like before Terry Crews is even the Terry Crews he is now.
I would watch him though. You look at his facial expressions, the way he uses his body,
funny.
dude.
His physicality is amazing.
He's a tremendous dude.
Yeah.
I heard him, I think he was getting interviewed by Tim Ferriss, I guess, telling his story. And he's pretty remarkable in a lot of ways. Really, like what he's like he's from Flint, Michigan, which is not the best place to be living. It's better to be from there, I suppose. I don't know. But fucking a crazy, crazy background. And the way, it's like the thing when two people are both presented the same problem, issue, whatever it is, and the different ways people take it. And like where he just got the most positive shit out of it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's really, really neat. Teaches me how to behave.
So I had so many people ask this question that I have to at least hint at it with you to acknowledge it.
Let's do it.
At Adam Capone Sculpture on Twitter says, how many times have you been killed on film?
Oh, that's a big one.
A lot of people are
How many
wondering
times
because
have I been killed
that's
on
kind of
film?
what you're
I don't
kind of
know.
famous for
I don't
is
know.
like
murders.
You get killed by usually the lead guy a lot.
Right. Yeah.
You're like one of the guys who are coming after them or fighting.
A couple Denzels, a couple
Keanu, right?
Keanu
and John Wick.
Keanu grabbed me by my beard, drugged me across the room, and headshot. And then
that's such a great film.
And then I got
love
to kill
that movie
myself.
So
I mean, I got to kill a dinosaur in Jurassic World.
That had to have been a good feeling.
Didn't die there. I was saving the world. Are you kidding? There was the flying dinosaur. You see what did you watch that movie?
Yeah.
Those are horrific animals. Yeah.
Yeah.
And GMO. I'm just trying to do what's right for the world, dude. Paleo. Yeah, I don't know how many times I've died in that. I saw one question that you had on Instagram yesterday, and somebody's like, how good does it feel looking back telling Dana White no to that
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah, it was,
and I thought,
Hey, Tate, looking back at how good does it feel when you think about the time you told Dana White no for a return to fight on TUF #Pirate Life?
yeah, man, I don't feel anything but gratitude, man. When that happened, I was like, there's an outside that room, there was a few of us that were sitting there, and we knew that was going to happen. And I said, listen, man, and I'd been out of the house for a couple of weeks at that point. I'd lost a decision fight, and there was a lot of stuff that I just was like, whatever, man. And I go, listen, man, this isn't my life. This is some of y'all, this is your life. And I'm not, I don't give a shit one way or another. I'm not trying to win this show at this point. I'm just like, fucking, let's go. Like, I was done 2 weeks ago. Now they're coming back. It was like after you've said you're done already. And it's like, I was like, this is whatever. And two guys that were out there go, dude, I really want to do this. I want to go. I was like, cool, man. Then I'm going to take myself out of it. You sure? Yeah, cool. They asked me to come in the room first. I go, hey, I take myself out of it. I go, whatever. And then those two guys were like, they didn't want to either at the end of it. And I was like, well, that's kind of a bummer in that way. But as far as like, you know, with Dana being on the show, being associated with the OC, years of fighting, all that kind of stuff, it's like, I'm glad that I got to live my life and express myself in those kinds of events when it counted. And I didn't ever expect to be at the Super Bowl of mixed martial arts, but then there I was. And I was 35 years old when I was in that house. And I was like, you know, the whole thing, it was just an amazing thing. And I was like, I was super grateful, and I'm still super grateful. And I think that there's a lot of people that talk a lot of stuff about Dana White, and it's tough for me to say anything except good things about him, just because, man, that's the people that are bitching that like, we need to get paid more, this and that. Like, that's true. And the life's changing and the whole thing is changing. But at that time too, and even right now, these are a bunch of guys that some would be lawyers and teachers, but some are mostly stocking shelves at Walmart. And it's like, I'm working at a nightclub, and like, it gave a platform, and it gave a pride to a bunch of us that hadn't had that before. And it gave us also lifelong friendships. And
yeah,
I mean, it's all of that. I'm grateful for it, is what it is.
That's what I appreciate you as as I've gotten to know you as a friend over the years, is every time I see you, you're a very positive guy, and like, you know, on film, and if somebody doesn't know you, you look very tough, you know, you're a big dude, but every interaction I've always had with you is very positive. And I can tell you're very grateful and gracious, like, towards others. And that's like, I like surrounding myself with people like that. It's very nice, you know? So it's cool to hear, you know, maybe somebody wanted maybe a different response from you, of course, but to hear that you're grateful for the opportunity and the experience, that's what I love hearing. Yeah.
And also it's like, it's never a position of like, I've got mine now and fuck you. It's like, man, I'm so stoked to be able to be at the party.
Happy to be at the party.
Yep.
So my buddy over at Luca Clothing Co. He
love
DM'd
that
me.
kid.
Yeah, he said whenever he messaged me this. He said, whenever I announced that you're going to be a guest on the show, he goes, hell yes, Tate is the #1 reason I'm still printing shirts.
That's hilarious.
I was so close to closing shop when I met him. He gave us multiple shouts on IG 2 years ago, and we're still riding that wave. Tell him to check the mail at the Caveman Lounge in Santa Fe.
No kidding.
And you should ask what was the most difficult part of getting Caveman Coffee started, and how you got past that.
It's now is the most difficult time too. It's easy to start stuff. Like, everybody can initiate conversations, businesses, driving your car down the street, navigating the obstacles, that becomes the thing. And so it's easy to start stuff, but keeping it alive or keeping it vibrant is a whole nother thing. And I think everything that people look at as successes in my life, I look at as failures. Like, I look at, like, I've dropped the ball a lot, but I've done it on big stages, and so it looks different to other people. But I've got this thing where I'm never very impressed with anything that I do either. And so even if something looks great to other people, I'm not so easy on myself with it, I suppose. And the hard part about Caveman is the hard part. You could overlay, you know, the microcosms and the macrocosms, they overlap each other all over. And no matter what it is, people are looking after they do something arduous and difficult as if they've climbed a cliff wall and they're standing on a ledge and they look out over and they see the horizon. And they go, look at all this right on. And then they turn around and they go, fuck, there's another cliff wall there. And that's the thing, man. The life is climbing. It's all climbing. Yeah, you ought to reflect over the horizon now and then, but mostly it's the hard work and your fingers bloody on the rocks and you're climbing. And like, so where we are right now with Caveman is just another climbing. It's like, for me, it's been an education. My whole life has been a university of going, well, how do you then curate this business and be a good steward of it? How then do you curate then a career and do this? How do you then have these relationships and do like, and so like whatever it is, it's like there's always the next thing. And how are you into that thing? And have you built enough discipline and honor that after it's not exciting and flashy, that you're in the trenches still, because that's where you should be. And it's like that thing about like, everybody likes to say, stay in your lane as like a admonition, or like almost as like a scolding, like stay in your lane, dummy, you know, don't try anything new or whatever. But that's one way to say that. But the other thing is like, for me, stay in my lane is like, become the best actor I can be a consistent podcaster. And that's maybe it. I don't know. There's these other things going on I got in my life, but the things that are important about me, developing me as a human, I've got to do that. And it's easy to get caught into, especially like in social media right now, what I'm finding, like and this is a tangent to this question, but there's a lot of guys that create content all the time. And they're like, you know, you listen to a Gary Vee and he's like, content's king, push it out, push it out, push it out, no matter what it is. I mean, I've got friends that are in the bodybuilding industry and then the like fitness or powerlifting and all that. And it's like, yeah, motherfucker, I watch you bench press every fucking day on Instagram. Like, how hard is that to create a story out of bench pressing? That's your shit. You know what I mean? It's like, holy fuck. And then, but you look at all the production and all that, like guys get good at it. I mean, they get as good as girls with these filters and the sticks and the, like they set up actual production shit for their shit. And I'm not that dude, but I'm over here going, do I need to compete with that guy? Do I need to start doing that? And like, and then I go, man, stay in your lane, bro. Just do you, because this will bring your consciousness into such fragmentation that you're not going to be very potent at anything you do.
Yeah, I mean, if you start dissipating yourself so much and, you know, you're spreading yourself too thin, then you're not really contributing what you fully can to people, and then that's when you're not in a good place.
And it's somebody else's job to get the content. I'm just doing me. Yeah. Like is how I've got to kind of get that. And so for me in our company, it's like getting roles like that too, and going, okay, as these roles change, here's what has to stay the same, because this is where your potency is best. You know, you don't need to drive a coffee or a truck full of coffee kegs to fucking California on your spare time, Tate, because that's not the best use of your time, which is something that I used to do back in the day.
All right.
Thank you, Luca.
Yeah, he's a great dude.
Yeah.
We met, Tony and I met him in Atlanta, him and his girlfriend who run the shop, and yeah, they're great people.
Yeah, that's where I met him, also was out there, and he's a dope guy.
Yeah. Why the term pirate life, Anthony De Silva 5
Good question,
on Instagram.
Anthony.
Why the term pirate life?
The fifth. Is that because there's other guys unrelated to you that are Anthony, and you're the fifth guy, or is it
Anthony De Silva's 1 through 4 are already taken?
That's what I figured. Or are there 4 others in your family and you're just descended? Anyway, pirate life came about, and the coffee company was an accident out of that expression. What I mean by that is, when I stopped fighting, and Keith had stopped too, but he didn't know it yet, we gave some nutrition talks, and we started talking about things that we had known and that we had professional nutritionists help us with who were wrong, who were just wrong about stuff, and the way that the body would access different macronutrients, and the for what our purposes were, what the best way to eat was, et cetera, et cetera. We got really deep into that topic, and we started looking at then, you know, at that time, high fructose corn syrup was going to be renamed as a natural sweetener, which, if you know some of the horrific effects that high fructose corn syrup is having on us, both individually and culturally, you can see it's not advantageous for anybody to have that.
Yeah.
And also now you're lying through your products. And the head of Monsanto, I believe, was appointed to the head of the FDA by Obama at that time. And that's a real, so this whole idea of pirate your life back was just like, your life is stolen and compromised. You're in an echo chamber of your own making. We've been really kind of subjugated and don't even know it. We think that we're free will and that we're free thinking, and Google owns all your fucking emails or whatever the thing is, right? And then you start seeing that like big corporations can buy votes and they don't have to say how much money they gave to anybody anymore because of Citizens United. And there's like some far-reaching problems with that. And so this whole idea of pirate your life back is like, I think your vote doesn't matter at all. We've seen that it probably doesn't, but it matters where I spend my money, because money is all they care about. It's not fairness they care about. They don't care about justice. They don't care about the health of the country. Nobody does. They care about money. And so when you start looking at solving the drug problem, crime problem, any problem, whatever it is, people are getting paid to keep people poor. People are getting paid for people to starve to death. People are getting paid to have drugs illegal. I mean, it's the funniest thing when you really think about it. You go, if I'm in a room with a plant, I can go to prison. With a plant that grows out of the dirt almost anywhere, a very hardy plant, like that's fucking insane. The laws around mushrooms are even crazier because you can have mushrooms, but you can't have them in a freeze or in a dried form. So if you have dried mushrooms, that becomes an illegality. If your mushrooms are there and they get old, now you go to prison.
Yeah.
And like that kind of stuff is fucking insane. This kind of trickery that's gone on. And so when I think about pirate your life back, it's like, man, think about where you're fucking paying. If you're buying McDonald's, if you're buying stuff at Walmart, if you're look at the parent companies of that, look at who owns everything. And you start looking at that and you go, do I want to put money into that, into my own enslavement? And that's what the idea of pirate your life back was please explore your nutrition. Please explore where your food comes from. For God's sakes, please, you can eat yourself into health. If you're in ill health, you've probably eaten yourself there. The way we treat ourselves is abysmal. And then you have the FDA that compromises itself based upon influx of dollars from different corporations. Well, fuck, man, that's not a watchdog anymore. That's somebody that's paid to lie to you to subjugate your health. And so this idea of pirate your life back came from that, about, own yourself, become autonomous, explore what hurts you, what helps you, and know how to use your body as the best example of yourself that you can go through so you can be more useful to everybody around you and have a better, stronger community. That's kind of the idea.
We are getting a phone call. Looks like an actual pirate is calling in to the show right now. Hello.
Hi, how are you, Jeremiah?
Good. I didn't know that Jeremiah Wonders reached the open waters.
Oh yeah, we have many ways.
So, are you a fan of this pirate life? I mean, that must be why
I
you're.
like all that shit, huh? It rings a good bell.
When was the last time you went through a village and
Pillaged?
you pillaged a village?
Yeah, well, we'll pillage now and again still, but we stopped the raping. It's just not the right society for that right now.
So you're a very progressive pirate.
We're getting a lot of pushback on the raping and pillaging. People don't mind a pillage now and again, but if you rape, you got to be careful where you rape.
So
they're only comfortable in certain countries, you know what I mean?
So a good pillage is fine, but just to be clear, raping is not good right now.
Really passe. I don't know who thought of that one.
Okay, so what are your goals as a pirate? Do you have any life goals, like other than pillaging and maybe stealing from other people, like outside of that?
Well, it's more of a Robin Hood type of thing, and we'd like to just get everybody to just kind of take the helm themselves and steer their own ship instead of this cowardly kind of shrinking that we see in these cubicles around the country.
And where does the money go? You mentioned this Robin Hood mentality.
You just spread that around. You just spread it around.
Oh, easier.
You go
than I
there,
thought.
you eat, you become independent is what you do. You're looking for that independence. We grow our own vegetables right on the bow of the ship. The whole sail satellite system.
Wow.
Yeah, clear as bell.
You guys are you got a smart setup there.
Progressive.
Are you looking for maybe a boy to clean the poop deck?
If you got to outsmart the poop deck.
The poop deck on a ship.
On the ship.
On the ship.
The vessel that I walk through life with?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I could juice you.
Wait, I think this is turning a little bit to something that you.
It may turn.
There's something in your voice that's a little creepy to me.
Would you like
right
to
now.
be an intern?
I don't know if I want to be an intern. I was just.
Wait a minute. You said you wanted to.
I said I wanted to, clean the poop deck. Like be a.
Oh, yeah, we got you.
Again, it's going back to something sexual that I don't know. I just want to be the janitor.
Sexual, you say? I'm not opposed. If you say, I got a lot of backup after we've done this anti-raping.
I think we're losing connection with the
We
pilot.
got to change tacks. We're going to just go ahead and come about. So we'll see you on the Spinnaker route later.
Okay, I think I just got jumped into.
It's awesome, man. Not a lot of people can get just brought aboard like that.
Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned for some of my well-being, but I guess I gotta try new things.
Well, you got to pirate your own life back. You know what I mean? It means different things to different folks.
Yeah. This brings us to our final segment, Sax Talk. Oh, Sax Talk.
Oh, sex talk. I love this.
Yeah. So.
Well, don't rape, you guys. That's the number one thing.
That's
Can I get a little music on this?
Yeah, I'm gonna play you some sweet sax, and you tell me of a story of some
I like to call it a saxophone.
a saxophone, whatever.
You probably haven't heard that before, a saxophone.
Actually, you're the first.
I've heard that before. Never like that. It's never good news for me. I'd rather have something a little more worn in. You know what I mean? There you go with that mouth thing again.
I gotta wet it. I gotta wet the reed.
It is wet.
It's a very sexual instrument, right?
It looks fucking crazy. It looks like you are in love. You're not even doing that for my benefit. It's just it's sensual.
I'm lubing it up. It's one of the reasons why it's such a sexual instrument.
You going just soft enough. You're like, it's nice, man.
Yeah,
it's nice.
Little tongue, the right amount of lip pressure.
Oh,
here we go.
Fuck. You've been paying attention to ladies. So for this sax talk, I'd like to go into, there's a lot of places you can go and you can get all your information. Basically, I learned a lot of stuff from Penthouse Forum. I don't know if y'all have ever listened to that. Or when I was a kid, there was this book called Playboy's Ribald Classics. It's just a horny young boy. I felt out any sexuality I could. Jerked off in deer blinds before. Out in the woods hunting ducks. And on an airplane once. I don't actually believe that I've ever had sex with anybody else in an airplane, but I am a member of the Solo Mile High Club. And I was a very crafty and devious youngster where I had masturbated myself under a blanket while sitting next to strangers. Important fact, unbeknownst to them, I wasn't out there there was none of that. I was just extremely horny. There was no malintent, I would say. But what I'd really like to do is say with a force like that that's pushing you to jerk off on an airplane in front of others, you really got to learn how to temper the dragon. So I think before you go out on a date, on your first date, what I would tell a young Tait was, you better jerk that thing off before you go. Because otherwise, you'll be of no good if the time that's magical and elusive ever does come. I think I'd worn out 3 condoms in my wallet before I ever used one. It takes years for condoms to wear out in your wallet. So do yourself a favor. Learn how to pull out. Just raw dog that bitch. Which is the best way anyway. And never be afraid to eat that pussy. Because that is really the only thing that you should be thinking about is this woman's pleasure in front of you. And if you don't take all of your faculties to go, how could I be a better lover to make this person more comfortable? That's the realest of real right there. We're here as stewards of other people's comfort that are in a vulnerable position. And there is no vulnerable or more uncomfortable position than your first sexual experiences of being naked with somebody from the other sex that you don't really even know how to ask on a date. And here you are with a boner and all this awkwardness. So my sex talk to y'all would be the same as a lot of other talks. It's a life talk. And what your job is in this life is to bring a comfort and an ease to those around you on the team so that they can bring about the greatest result possible for everybody. That's all I know about that.
That was beautiful. I think every woman around the world listening to you said amen in unison.
I like that. Why not a woman?
Whoa.
Jesus.
I mean, wow.
It's a mic dropper.
Full circle right there.
I do that.
People ask Tait all the time what he uses to condition his beard. Little known fact, pussy juice.
Pussy juice goes a long way, y'all. You got to earn that shine.
That gloss.
That glossiness.
That glossy finish. Bro, thank you so much for
Thank you, man. I'm glad
doing
we
the
could
show.
do it.
Oh, man, so happy to have you.
Again, jealous of your Zoom. And this whole, I'm impressed with everything.
Oh, my apartment set up?
I mean, I'm looking at the neatest, most put together, like it makes you jealous to go, like, oh, all the pictures are hung up in here.
My wife has everything to do with that.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
God bless her.
Yeah. Is there anything that,
well, what am I up to? You could have just seen me in Waco. You can still download that on iTunes, I think. It's on the Paramount Network. And we recount the last days of the Koresh family, of which I was a member. Just fresh out in Jumanji. And then
you were great in that. That was fun.
What's coming up is, I'm in a couple of NCIS LA. And then you can hear me on Pirate Life Radio is my podcast.
And go back through, like, you got to just go to his IMDb, and then you'll just be like,
that.
I mean, it's crazy. Like Sicario, John Wick, Equalizer, like the list is just amazing movies.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been a really great run, and that's the thing. That's what I'm focused on. That's what I dabbled into this thing where I was like, I want to do stand-up comedy because it's fucking scary. Like, it's all those things. Like, I have a huge regard for it, but at the same time, it's like that's a full thing. That's something where it's like, I really respected Ari Shaffir when I was like, he lives right by the dojo. He's 4 buildings from where that's a dude committed. It's like, and then I was like, when I was coming to your place, I was like, I wonder where Jeremiah's living. I'm like, oh yeah, not far from the fucking store. That's where, because that's where the lifeblood of it is. And so that kind of commitment is amazing. That's the thing I wish in life. I just wish I had more energy to commit to more things. But to be responsible, you just got to say no to some things too sometimes, and different things weave in at different times. So that's it. That's it. But I'll see you at the store as a fan, as always.
I'll see you at the store, brother. Thanks so
much.
much.
All right, bro. Thank you.